Kirtan. Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha Yathagnir dahika shakti Ramakrishne sthita hiya Sarva vidya swarupam tam saradam pranamamyaham Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhur Muhur Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. Om! Salutations to that establisher of all dharmas, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa Dev, the avatar par excellence. Salutations to that Sharada Devi, who exists in him as heat inseparably exists in fire, who is the embodiment of all wisdom. May this be an offering to that mother of the whole world. May I forevermore take shelter at those two lotus feet. Om, peace, peace, peace. Happy Good Friday and Haribol! Today is the last of 3 lectures on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his life and his teaching. So we just had Gauranga Purnima, so the full moon celebrating the emergence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who I claimed is perhaps one of the most ecstatic and important bhaktas the world of religious history has ever seen. And so studying his life, his personality, his philosophy, and his practice is incredibly important for anyone on any path who is pursuing spirituality in any genuine and earnest way. So I absolutely insisted on it this year that we would explore a little bit of this tradition, even though it's not necessarily our general inclination. Usually we're a bit more radically non-dual, usually we're interested in Shakta, Tantra philosophies, and usually we discuss things in the context of Kali Kula and what have you. But also we're in the lineage of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa Dev. And Sri Ramakrishna, as I told you 2 lectures ago and also last time we met, very much identified with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In fact, Sri Chaitanya is perhaps the archetype that fits Ramakrishna the best. Both of them had very, very powerful similarities. There were of course differences too. Huge differences in terms of philosophy, no doubt. But in terms of like the approach, generally speaking, they were both ecstatic lovers of God. So to understand something of Sri Chaitanya is to understand something of Sri Ramakrishna, and vice versa. To understand Sri Ramakrishna is exciting because then it sheds light not only on Sri Chaitanya, but on Jesus, on all other religious traditions. So in the spirit of Sri Ramakrishna, and in the spirit of finding truth and celebrating it everywhere, wherever it is to be found, we're going to have a discussion today about Bhakti in practice. The first discussion was Bhakti, Gaudiya Vaishnava Bhakti in terms of philosophy. That we did last week on Friday. There we talked about the school of philosophy known as Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which wasn't actually formally created by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in any sense. It was actually established by Goswamis, who allegedly were instructed by him. So it's true in places like Prayag and in Benares, Chaitanya transmitted to certain members of his community like Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, and then later their nephew Jiva Goswami. And through these transmissions, they eventually formulated the school, which we studied philosophically and technically on Friday last week. Then on Monday, we did something I think far more interesting, because more interesting than all these philosophies is the life that is lived. Living philosophy, embodied philosophy, is the personality and biography of these great saints. So when we read, the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, we get philosophy. But then when we read Nikhilanandaji's biography on Swami Vivekananda, wow, what a different feel you get. When you read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you see not only what Sri Ramakrishna had to say, but how he had his being, which is really exciting. But when you read the Leela Prasanga, and you see what his life was like, his biography, that is truly stunning and beautiful. So we try to take that approach on Monday, and we looked at the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he was born, what his early life was like, what his life was like as a Pandit in Navadvip, and what he was like after that experience in Gaya when he was totally transformed and when he became an ecstatic lover of God, and how he lived his days, his Leela in Puri and in places like Vrindavan, and his pilgrimage in southern India, and all of that we studied on Monday to some extent. Obviously, we only scratched the surface, but today is my favorite lecture, I think. Of the 3 installments in this series, today we're going to talk about the practices, which I think are immediately relevant to all of us because it's something that we can immediately apply upon learning. So I'm going to present a few models today, models of Bhakti sadhana. And whatever your tradition may be, I mean, after all, it's Good Friday today. Many of you might be Christian sadhanas, doing Christian sadhanas. Unlikely, I feel like most of you here are Shaktas. But whoever might be watching this video, some of you might be doing some kind of Christian sadhana. And often I'm speaking to audiences who have that background anyway. And Christianity is a Bhakti tradition. It's primarily a tradition of devotion. Yes, there's all sorts of contemplative aspects of Christianity too. Like there are monastic orders within Christianity, especially like in the Orthodox world. There are hesychastic traditions where people go out into the desert and spend time alone in solitude and live a contemplative life. And so certainly there's a lot of Christian jnana, no doubt. And there's a huge Christian karma yoga sort of movement. And certainly there's, prayer, you can understand that as meditation. There's certainly a Christian Raja Yoga as well. But predominantly, by and large, for the vast majority of Christians in the world, it's Bhakti, right? Christianity is a Bhakti-oriented practice. And so today's lecture will be immediately relevant because Bhakti principles apply across the board to all Bhakti traditions. And then, of course, I think Abrahamic religions as a whole, like Islam especially, Islam and Christianity, both are very Bhakti-oriented. And Hinduism, for the most part, if even Hinduism can be a term that can be used, for the most part is Bhakti-oriented. So most of us will choose an Ishta, or an Ishta is given to us by our Guru upon initiation, and then our life is devoted to that Ishta in loving service, and our whole practice is to cultivate that loving service. So I think across the board, a Bhakti lecture is always good. It's always wonderful. So we're going to have a Bhakti lecture today. And today, there's no better place, I think, in the whole world to have this Bhakti lecture than in Caitanya Devi's house. I'm so happy. Here we are. We came up to Lafayette. Is that where we are? Yeah, Lafayette. So we've come up to San Francisco, to stay with our community here. And today was blessed day because we got to come together and we got to get in the van, the Scooby, the mystery machine, and we're going to drive up to this wonderful place. And there's a beautiful cow outside in the ranch. Bull. I keep saying go. Bull. Nandi. Nandi is outside there. But really, I'm all Prakriti. All mouse. But yes, sorry. Bull. His name is Nandi. We got to meet him outside. And then there's Krishna and Balarama. Sheep. They're so black and white. Black and white, yes. But they're shy. They were off to the, Krishna. That classic Krishna and Balarama, making me so elusive, making me search this way and that way. So Krishna and Balarama. And then we went into the stable and we saw a lot of donkeys. Allegedly, there's some similarity actually between Richard Ji and the big, strong, tall horse there. But we met the donkey Pixie. There's Richard. He's over here for your horse comparison. You'll hear him play guitar later in just a few moments. And so we saw the horses and the donkeys. They're all so gentle, as is befitting a Vaishnava's household. So gentle. I feel like we've come to Raja itself, where all the animals are so in the bhav, if you will. You really feel you smell the sandalwood paste here. Such silence and peace. Owls. Lakshmi Devi is here also. There's deer, Parvati Devi, Mrigakshane, there's deer and owls. So I'm so happy to be here. And this is my first time visiting Caitanya Devi. And actually, this is a new place. Caitanya Devi just moved into this new place. So her and Elliot are going to be here. And they're going to host monthly kirtans here. I can already feel like what a wonderful place for bhaktas to come together and celebrate God. So it's wonderful. There's animals and peaceful setting and true devotees and everything just feels so sattvic and light. And I'm so happy. I'm so happy to have this final of the 3 conversations in none other than Caitanya Devi's house. Isn't that so special? So Madhu could come. Madhu is here. Amrita is here. Vijaya is here. Richard Ji is here. Amrita is here. Did I say already Amrita? I said Amrita twice. Amrita is here. The 2. Infinite Amrita. One Amrita there, one Amrita here. Yes, Lalita could not make it unfortunately, and Kate could not make it, but they were intending to come. So we're holding them in our hearts. Let's plunge right in, shall we? We'll have a discussion about Bhakti and Bhakti practices. Like, what does it mean to be devoted to God? Now, we're going to keep this conversation highly practical. In other words, we're not going to do too much philosophy today, not at all. And we're certainly not going to reference too much of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life because we already did so in previous lectures. Today, let's just get down to business and talk about what we can do, we who are sincerely trying to practice Bhakti sadhanas. So the first thing to say here, before we begin a discussion on how to Bhakti, you have to ask yourself, why to Bhakti? Before we can even have a conversation about sadhana or spiritual life, we have to be really clear as to why this would be worth doing at all. I mean, why not just deal with the problems of our life piecemeal? much deal with problems as they come up, try to live a good life in the sense that we would be somewhat morally responsible for others' well-being and have some sense of stewardship for the world. But otherwise, let's just like live our lives, right? Let's just, eat good food at nice restaurants. Let's enjoy music and movies and games. Let's play cards. Today I was in Chinatown and it was raining, it's pouring, and there was like kind of awning, and people were huddled in the awning. Everyone's playing cards. Not mahjong. I was disappointed. It was not mahjong, but everyone's playing cards. I thought it was so cute. Why not do that? Why not play cards? Or just, we have our work, we have our office stuff and our careers. Why not just do that? Just like live your life, live your life like an average good person, trying to pursue as much meaning and satisfaction as possible, have children, have a house, have hobbies. Like, why not just do that? What's all this religiosity for? Like, why sadhana? Why God? Why spirituality? You have to ask that question first. And don't just do it because people are doing it. The only real spirituality happens when we really, truly want to be spiritual. So it has to be about us and our unique relationship to God. That's one of the reasons why I like in our community to explore different traditions. Primarily, we're interested in non-duality. And we study Advaita Vedanta, of course, like non-duality in the Vedantic tradition, but we're mostly interested in non-duality in the Tantric tradition in the light of Sri Krishna and Swami Vivekananda. And there, our central focus is Kali, and Kali is inseparable, the energy that is inseparable from Brahman or Shiva, pure non-dual consciousness. That's our focus and all that. But it's nice also, Christmas time, December time, we talk about Christ obsessively. And then we talk about Mother Mary when it's June, the Feast of Mary, and then now we're talking about Chaitanya. And it's nice that in our community, we can talk about as many different models as possible to stress this point. It's your journey, like it's your spirituality, and you never need to conform to the flavor of the community that you're in. This is a very important point because, many of us, I think all of us have this desire to lose our individuality in some greater community. It's just easier. Like it's easier not to think for ourselves. It's easier not to make decisions. It's easier not to take responsibility. It's easier not to construct a sense of self. It's much better to let that selfhood be subsumed in something that is perceived to be greater than ourselves. And usually that's a community, and usually that's a community's ideology. So we might agree with some things and maybe not with others, but we ignore what we don't agree with and we aggrandize what we do agree with, and then we like that's our personality now. So I'm a Shakta, I wear these markings. So I'm a this person, I wear that marking. So we adopt a whole personality based on a particular tradition. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's wonderful if that's really a one-to-one match. But often there can never be a one-to-one match because there's never been a person like you, and nor will there ever be a person like you ever more in this world. You are an absolutely unique instantiation of divinity. And that means your approach to God must be absolutely customized and tailored to you, to your past, to your proclivities, to your karmas and samskaras, you see. No one can tell you how to approach God, and no one can do it for you. Even if a guru can give Shaktipat or what have you, these things come and go. The main thing is your own journey towards God. And given that, you have to be very clear as to why it's worth doing it all. And the reason why we present as many different models as possible is with the hope that you will mix and match and therefore tailor your own path, which can be criticized also, because here you could say, well, now you're just not going to go deep into any one thing. No, I think it is possible to have breadth and depth. Depth here is the depth of bhakti, the depth of jnana, the depth of vairagya, renunciation. Breadth can be learning as much as you can from everyone, taking the best from every community, and then using your own life experiences to discern amongst all this material that you've been presented to create for yourself what feels like an authentic and genuine path. That's spirituality, So in our community, we always stress that this is about you. It's your spirituality. You're not here because of like we're some bigger community and like we're all a part of this. No. We're all alone together, in a sense. We're all sharing the road, as Ram Dass was like walking each other home like that. Ideally, walking each other home to our individual entry. Like the assumption that we all have the same home is problematic, actually. How do you know? How do you know that everyone's like final destination in spiritual life has to be the same? As if we're all going to end up in the same place. That's kind of glib and presumptive, isn't it? Maybe there are infinite ways to enjoy ourselves and enjoy God. And so each of us maybe have different entry points into the one reality. So we can't actually walk each other home. We can only really encourage each other to make that journey and then make that journey alongside one another. Isn't that beautiful? You came here alone. You will die alone. Always remember this. This is not your world. You are a traveler. You are just a passerby. You're wandering in this wilderness of samsara, and all of it will disappear like a dream. Sorry, I know this is a Bhakti class and my Vedanta is coming out. But you must never forget that this world is very impermanent. I saw a raindrop fall into a puddle today in Chinatown, and there were some ripples, and the ripples were gone. And I was so stunned by that because I was like, that's this life. This life that I'm living now is but a drop in a puddle. The ripples echo out, and they're gone. And how many drops have fallen into the puddle of reality? So like that, this life is nothing. It's impermanent. It just comes and it goes. But you came alone, you will leave alone. So never forget, we have these communities and relationships, but we came alone and we will leave alone. We came with nothing, we will leave with nothing. We came naked, we will leave naked. So even now you can feel that freedom. This is my path. So of course, if you're going to start this path, if you're going to move towards God, you have to really get clear as to why that's worth doing. So let's make a point about this. The purpose of life, we'll say, Sri Ramakrishna says the purpose of life is to realize God, right? Now, Vivekananda, he said it a different way. He said the purpose of life is education through experience. Like you're here to learn. But what's the point? Why are you learning? Why would you want education through experience? I'm going to say, going off of these two, that the purpose of life is joy, is fulfillment. That's what all of us want. And that's actually why we do all the things that we do. If we carefully examine our motives, we'll see that they're always joy oriented. The reason we do anything is because we expect to get some joy out of it. So if we're pursuing like orgasms or chocolate cake or what have you, it's because we expect these things will give us joy. And they do to some extent. And if we want money, then we expect that this money will enable us to do things that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do without that money. So we think money will bring us joy. And then we want fame, maybe we want name and fame and a sense of belonging maybe, because we think that will make us feel special and give us a sense of joy. We might want a family or a house, or we might want to like leave behind a legacy, or we might want to feel like we're meaningfully contributing to society by doing some kind of charitable work or some kind of environmental activism or something like that. We do all of these things, but ultimately we do all of these things with only one view in mind, and that is the attainment of joy. We are all of us looking for joy. But spiritual life begins when we realize that that joy is not really to be had in all of those things of the world. So we'll start with this. In the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, Krishna is understood as the supreme reality, the supreme non-dual reality that has three Shaktis, or rather one Shakti that can be understood in three ways. There are three layers of the Shakti, if you will. The most peripheral, the external layer of the Shakti is called Maya Shakti. But like I said on Friday, and I think I reiterated on Monday, the Maya Shakti here is not like Maya Shakti in the Shankarite sense. In Shankara's philosophy, Maya means illusion, avidya, or adhyaya, superimposition onto Brahman, that which is not really real. So like the world, the self, individual selves, Jivatman, God, these are all unreal superimpositions onto the one reality Brahman. So their Maya is invoked as an explanation for why these appearances at all. Here, it's different. Chaitanya doesn't actually think the world is unreal. This is a brand of realism. His philosophy is a realist philosophy that accepts the ontological primacy of the world that we experience. This Maya Shakti, therefore, is not an illusion. It's not unreal. It is simply Krishna's power to manifest materiality. So jara means inertness. So all the inert things that you see, like rocks and stuff like that, the bodies that we experience, all of these are formed out of matter, materiality. You might, from a yogic point of view, call this prakriti. So this prakriti Shakti or this Maya Shakti is the most external of Krishna's glory, his Shakti. Then slightly closer to Krishna, internal, more internal than Maya Shakti, but not as internal as Swarupa Shakti, is what is called Tathastha Shakti, the riverbank Shakti, or otherwise known as Jiva Shakti. This is a very special Shakti because this Shakti allows Krishna to diversify himself as all of these various Jivas, individuals, and each Jiva is a unique monad of consciousness. And all of these Jivas exist through Krishna's power. They're an emanation of Krishna's power in a sense, if I can use that phrase. Then, even closer to Krishna is what is called Swarupa Shakti. And this Swarupa Shakti can be further understood in three ways. The power of existence, the power of consciousness, which is called Samvit, and the power of bliss. And this is key, bliss. And the bliss is called Hladini. Hladini is the Gaudiya Vaishnava technical phrase for the bliss aspect of reality. And this bliss aspect is twofold. It is bliss itself, as well as the power and potential to enjoy that bliss. So it's rasa and rasika, bliss and the taster of the bliss. Krishna, of course, is bliss, but the Swarupa Shakti of Krishna is the ability of Krishna to taste his own bliss. And that is personified as Radha. So this is a key word. Even the name, wow. Have you ever heard a name so sweet? Radha. Radha Rani, Radhe Radhe, is one of the most important dimensions in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. In Vrindavan, people say Radhe Radhe. That's kind of like a very common greeting in Vrindavan. And Vrindavan is what it is, as I told you on Monday, because of this revivalist movement that Chaitanya started, through the Goswamis and through this like wider Gaudiya Vaishnava community that emerged in Navadvip, Mayapur, Bengal, Puri region like that. Because of that, Vrindavan is what it is. And so there, a Gaudiya Vaishnava stronghold, where many Gaudiya Vaishnavas spend their whole lives so that they can be close to places associated with their beloved Lord. There, the greeting is Radhe Radhe. So you can see how central Radha is to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. But understand, Radha is the personification. She actually was a woman in the world who lived and loved Krishna. But the word Radha has a deeper connotation. She is the personification of Hladini. And Hladini is the bliss aspect of the divine reality, both as that which is enjoyed and that which is enjoying, as well as enjoyment itself. So that's the ultimate joy that can be had in this life. The ultimate fulfillment is Radha's fulfillment. So the portrait of Radha, as we sketched on Monday, is a woman madly in love with her paramour Krishna. And this love is not even like the sobering married love that Rama enjoys with Sita, or that Krishna might enjoy with Rukmini, his lawfully wedded wife and queen. This is an even more profound love, the love of the unchaste woman. And there's a claim here that like this kind of love is even better because it's more self-effacing. Like the love of a married couple is societally enjoined. There's not that many risks to being madly in love with your wife or being madly in love with your lawfully wedded husband. No one is going to have a problem with you for being in love with your lawfully wedded husband, right? But the entirety of society might have a problem with you if you, outside of your marriage, pursue some kind of romantic relationship. That will usually come with great social consequence. And that the gopis and Radha were willing to bear any and all consequences in their self-effacing embrace of the absolute is, I think, what's being emphasized here. Now, this is very important. Radha and the gopis and what have you are exhibiting a form of divine love. And we talked about this a lot on Friday. Like, to what extent do we understand this in like a human way? And we say, look, now we're a jiva, we're caught between two worlds. One is a world of materiality. And in this world of materiality, we identify with the body. And as long as we're identified with the body, we only understand sex in a physical way. Our entire romance structure is premised upon physical intimacy. And that physical intimacy then creates special relationships in our life. But those relationships are usually oriented around physical and, to some extent, mental and emotional pleasure, what Swami Vivekananda very famously called sanctified shopkeeping. You do this for me, I do this for you, therefore we're in a relationship. It's not selfless. It has elements of selflessness in it, but ultimately that love, for most of us, if we're going to be honest, is transaction. And most of our human relationships in this life, it's like, what can you do for me? What can I do for you? And it's usually life circumstances, actually. Right? Like a lot of the times, the people that we're with, a lot of it is like situational and circumstantial. Like we are with this person because they offer us something and that we love them. But part of that love has to do also with, like other factors in our life, various ones. We don't need to get into it. But usually this is quite messy. All of us, I think, without a doubt, experience a lot of pain in romantic relationships. Like 50% of all songs are about falling in love, and maybe 50% of all other songs about the pain of falling in love. So it's obviously a very mixed bag for human beings. But like I was saying on Friday, there's something divine in it, and there's something material in it. So anytime you enter a relationship, there are always at any given point, two aspects of that relationship. There's the Maya Shakti aspect, which arguably is me and mineness, to say, this person is my person. And once you say that, all sorts of horrible, like, stuff happens, right? And we all do that. We say, okay, these are friends, these are my possessions, and we treat our friends like our possessions, or we say that they're part of ourself like that. That's called Maya Shakti. And that's premised upon name and form, on transaction, on materiality, on pleasure. But then there's also something divine. There's a bit of God in each of these relationships. And that's the Hladini or bliss aspect. So when we speak of this romantic tryst, that Krishna is enjoying with the gopis, we're speaking in a very exalted spiritual register and tone, though we're using language that might appeal to those of us who are mired in Maya Shakti. We're using romantic language, but in truth, the kind of joy and bliss and fulfillment that comes from this sort of self-effacing love is so far outside of our any conceptions that we can have actually of the same in the material realm. So our predicament, remember, our central question now is, why should we do this? Our predicament is that we are a jiva. We, each of us, experience our individual jivatman nature, our individual identities, as you call them, pramatas. And we suffer, right? We as individuals suffer. That's the fact. The basic fact is no matter who we are, how much money we have, where in the world we live, we, each of us, suffer. And now the claim here is that you're suffering because of this Maya Shakti. This Maya Shakti, this materiality, this selfishness, this attachment. Sri Ramakrishna described Maya as possessiveness, like me and mine. If you say anything is mine except for God, if you say anything at all in this world is mine, you must suffer the loss or the anxiety that comes with that claim. So through living in Maya, through identifying with the body and through pursuing the various, alluring yet disappointing fruits that Maya has to offer, you eventually get some kind of spiritual sense. And through that spiritual sense, you come to spiritual life. And therefore, you take up what is called Vaidhi Bhakti or Sādhanā Bhakti, meaning you're now doing a spiritual practice. Why? With the intuition that through that spiritual practice, you can move away from Maya, away from materiality, which you now understand is the cause of your bondage, and move towards something higher, a different way of understanding yourself. And so values like transcending sexuality, like values like transcending materiality and greed, like lustlessness, greedlessness, desirelessness, indifference to the world of sense objects. These are all important values in any spiritual path. Why? Because it's a movement away from individual particularized material self towards something greater. And obviously different traditions will understand this differently. Okay, so now this is why we do it. We do this because we suffer, and the purpose of practicing bhakti is not only so you can not suffer, but as like some Buddhistic traditions, the whole orientation is towards ending suffering. That's it. They won't say anything beyond that. It's nirvana only, right? You're suffering, do this, you'll end suffering. They don't say anything about joy. But what I love about the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, it's a joy, bliss-oriented tradition, where it's not just about ending suffering. Yes, it's about that. But more importantly, it's actually about attaining the highest fulfillment in life. So to go back to our central point, the purpose of life is to attain fulfillment, to attain joy. And there are gradations of joy that you can achieve in spiritual life. So this brings me to the next point, and this point is actually quite subtle, and it's very worth listening to if you're like a sincere spiritual aspirant. Hello, Nicole. I miss you. It's good to see you. Nicole was here yesterday. We finally got to meet in person. But there you are in your hippie paradise, in your homestead, with your mushrooms of various sorts. So we miss you. But anyway, so the next question we have to ask is, okay, so like now I'm in spiritual life, right? But if you start sadhana, you'll realize that there are various different goals that are being presented to you by different traditions. Like if you come to most of my lectures, I'm going to say, the goal is to be Shiva. No, the goal is to recognize that you already are Shiva. If you talk to me in any sustained way, our conversation will usually eventually lead to this. You're God, and all this is God, and I am God. Let's go ham tonight. Like there's a certain like bhav that we're interested in because we're non-dual Shaivas. I am Shiva, you are Shiva. Only Shiva exists. Nothing exists that's not Shiva. All this is verily Shiva. That's our bhav. Other people might be interested only in nirvikalpa samadhi, which I'm also very partial to. We're like meditation nuts here. Obviously, we're Shaivas. We love, like, our favorite thing is like just meditating and being lost in the ecstasy of absorption, if that even by God's grace can happen for us. But we love to meditate. We love non-duality. But that's only one flavor, you see. And you go to the Christian school, or the Gaudiya Vaishnava school, or the Buddhist school, and you get other flavors. So now the question is, are all spiritual traditions the same and leading to the same goal? Not quite. The Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition is very beautiful in that it argues that you can be a jnani, you can be a yogi, you can practice Vedic rituals, and they will work, but they won't bring you quite as much joy as bhakti. That's the interesting thing. The Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition does not reject outright jnana as a path, karma yoga as a path, or even raja yoga as a path. But it does say that they're all limited, that what you attain through mastering these paths is incomparable to the unrivaled and unfathomable joy of losing yourself in selfless service to your beloved Krishna. That's the best you can hope to get for in this life. It's the best you can hope for in this life. total self-surrendered love to Krishna. And other things are possible, they're just lower. So let me explain this. And Chakreshwara Deva is saying one of Radha's names is Bhaktananda Pradayini. She gives, this is so beautiful. She gives the bliss of bhakti to devotees. Pradayini. She gives Ananda, but she doesn't just give Ananda. She gives a special Ananda, the Ananda of Bhakti. So check this out. The claim here is that the joy you can get from Bhakti, which by the way is a word that both denotes the path and the destination. The joy you can get from Bhakti is far better. It's like just a higher love than anything else. So let's ask why. So what is a jnani interested in? So now let's assume we're next step in our lecture. Let's assume we're all of us here spiritual seekers. We know why we're doing this. We want to stop suffering and we also want to be happy, which I'm going to keep saying is the central goal of life. The goal of life is not to do things right as if there's some moral law of rectitude that we're supposed to follow. No, the goal of life is to be happy. We're all here to be happy and we're all of us, each of us trying to figure out what that looks like uniquely. So with that in mind, we have a few paths before us. So let's say we decide to walk the Jnana Marga. We want to be Jnanis. Now in the Jnana Marga, we study the Upanishads, we study the Tantra Agamas, Tantra Shastra like that. And we learn something about reality and about ourselves. We listen. And the teacher tells us, Tattvamasi. I hear that. And we're like, wait, no, that can't be true. I don't feel like Brahman. Also, how could I be Brahman when I have all these desires? I feel like a person. So I can't be Brahman. So we think about it. After we hear Shravana, then we think, we cogitate. Really, I'm Shiva? Really, I'm Brahman? That cannot be. I can't even pay my taxes. How can I be Shiva, who is the creator, destroyer, and the preserver? Like we have these doubts. And then we work them out with our teacher. And our teacher carefully instructs us, okay, no, that's the wrong way of thinking. This is the right way of thinking. And then after we have all these arguments probably handled and dealt with and put aside, then we not only do we hear that we're God, we now understand and are completely convinced that we're God. It just doesn't, we still suffer. Like we don't feel like God. So then the next stage is the most important. It's called Nididhyasana, where we sit and we meditate until we realize that we actually are God. And then what happens? So according to some Jnana schools, the real liberation only happens after you die. Predominantly, in Jnana schools, the real liberation, the ultimate liberation is called moksha, the fourth of the four goals. First kama, pleasure. Actually, the first one is dharma. You have to have righteousness, and through righteousness, then you get wealth, artha, and through wealth, you get kama, enjoyment. So through dharma, artha, and kama, you eventually come to want moksha. But according to Jnana schools, many of them, you get that moksha upon leaving the body at death. So say you realize you're Brahman. Okay, good. Now you just have to work out your prarabdha karma. Whatever you have left to, experience in this life, you just bravely bear it. But because you realize you're Brahman and are no longer identified with this particular self, you're not generating any new karmas. So as a result, the moment this body drops, when karma is exhausted, you, the Jivatman, merge into Brahman, and your individuality is gone forevermore, and you're subsumed into the transpersonal absolute, and that's called moksha. Other jnanis will say, no, these yoga Vedantins, they have a different idea. They say, you don't have to wait for death. Once you realize you are Brahman, the force of that discovery so inwardizes you that you forget everything for a moment, and you become absorbed in samadhi. And technically, as long as you're in samadhi, you're free. Because in samadhi, you are merged. You don't even have to wait for the death of the body. And if you're a really good yogi, you'll be in samadhi so long, the body falls away anyway. See, the yoga Vedantins or the jnanis, most of them think of moksha as a kind of post-mortem state. And that post-mortem state is one of union, total merging into Brahman. The goal is to be Brahman, to recognize that you are Brahman. Now, in our tradition, in the Shakta, Shaiva, non-dual tradition, a different goal is proposed. It's not to merge into Brahman. Yes, it is. Actually, our goal is Shiva Yoga, to be united with Shiva. We want to be Shiva. Actually, we are Shiva. We just have to recognize that we are. And then once you recognize that you're Shiva, you recognize that this is my playground. This is my Shakti. This whole world is my expression, my existence. How does Abhinava Gupta say it? So beautifully in Bhairavastava. Tvamayam etadashesham idanim bhati mamma tvad anugraha shaktya. Through the grace of Shakti, my own Shakti, through my own grace, oh my God, see the haughtiness. Through my own grace, I graced myself. After all, I deluded myself. So I, the self-deluder, have self-revealed to myself. Now everyone's saying the narcissism of Shaiva yogis, but I myself deluded myself. And now I myself, through my own grace, graced myself and revealed to myself that this entire universe exists within me. as my expression and my existence. And now, what's left? Bhishana Bhairava Shakti Mayosmi. The energy of this realization has filled me with the power and potency of Bhairava. So with eyes wide open, I roam the world, absolutely naked and free, like Dattatreya with my dogs. And I enjoy everything. I reject nothing. I enjoy everything. And I live forever if I want, because Shiva yogis can if they want. You know, they have practices to keep the body alive for as long as they want. I can live forever if I want. I should have powers. Of course, I'm Shiva. I should be empowered. I should have siddhis and I should have at it, right? Why not? I'm Shiva. This is my game. This is my play. That's the Shiva attitude. So that's another idea. So it's not merging into Brahman. Yes, it is that. Anytime I want, I should be able to do it. So if I'm Shiva, I should be able to destroy the world, right? So I should be able to enter into Samadhi whenever I want. That's one of the definitions of our Jivan Muktahood. You can just, anytime you want, go into Samadhi. Anytime you want, destroy the world. Close your eyes, the world should be gone for you. And open your eyes, that's the goal, to close your eyes and destroy the world, but then to open your eyes and re-vomit, actually the word is bha-rava, to vomit the world back into existence, and then like a dog eating its own vomit in a sense. I go and play. It's literally like that. That's why in the more radical Aghora lineages, there's like practices of eating your own feces. Why? Why not? This whole world is your own, like there's no difference between the pure and the impure. You see, this is the Shaiva Bhav, where like there's no high and low. Everything is equally pure and we can prove it too. You know what I mean? Like feed us whatever you want. We'll eat it with relish because it's Shiva. So I do know Aghoris who like can straight up eat straight sewage and like whatever, because in that experience, literally when you look at the world, you see God and God alone. You know, everything tastes like chakra sadam, if you know what I mean. Chakra sadam is a very sweet, beautiful rice dish, like pies a bit. It's like a thick pies. So that's a Shaiva Bhav. It's crazy, it's radical, but it's only one flavor, right? Now, what do you want? That's the question. What do you want in this life? What do you want out of your spiritual life? So the Gaudiya Vaishnavism, the argument that you get from them, this is very beautiful. Dhyana is valid, but the goal is to merge into Brahman, right? But that doesn't really sound like a lot of fun. Why would you want to be sugar? Isn't it better to taste sugar? And you know, here's the thing. If you want merging into Brahman, you will get merging into Brahman. There's a realm called the Siddha Loka, not Parama Vyoma, Siddha Loka. And this is the realm of Brahman. And Brahman is accepted as the external peripheral splendor of Krishna. So this is called Tanubha. So isn't this beautiful? Tanubha means the external radiance. Oh my God, you guys. I was like, right? Wasn't that like some gold Shaivism right there? I'm so mad that you're just now coming in because I just had this whole bit about eating sewage. It was awesome. You would have all been so proud of me. Yeah, you missed a pretty radically non-dual bite of a moment. You're coming just in time for my more bhakti-oriented stuff. But anyway, so you see, there are different goals, right? Like different goals that you might have. So you might want to be a yogi, absorbed in the deepest samadhi, merged in Brahman. Or you might want to be a jnani, who after having spent your prarabdha karma in this body, you kick the body and merge into Brahman. By the way, if you don't attain jnana now in this life, you will have to reincarnate, like I spoke about this morning, punar janma. And you'll reincarnate, you'll try again. But one day you'll realize that you're Brahman, and then you won't have to reincarnate anymore. And after the death of the body, you get videha mukti, merging into Brahman. Or you want to be a jivan mukta. You want to open your eyes after samadhi. You want to be embodied and yet free, which by the way is a paradox. Jivan Mukta. How can you be free and yet embodied? That's like one of the deep philosophical questions in Indian spirituality. So we say, yes, you can. Shaivas, they claim, yes, you can. And that's the goal, Jivan Mukta. But the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, their argument is this. If you are a jnani, yeah, it will work. Don't worry. You can practice your jnana marga. You will definitely attain Brahman. But woe be to you who have attained Brahman, because you've gotten now a lower thing. You're now one with God. You're God. But you can't enjoy God anymore. Does that sound like the highest fulfillment? That sounds like spiritual suicide. All this talk about nirvana, merging into Brahman, doesn't it sound like a really defeatist, pessimistic, and nihilistic attitude? Right? It's about ending. The literal Buddhist word is nirvana. End it. Like, don't enjoy the world. Close the world off. And the Shaiva approach seems dangerous. Enjoy the world. What? It's like siddhis and that sounds like a recipe for further enmeshment. Right? So it sounds like hubris and it sounds like it's a bad idea, you know? And really, how much can you enjoy the world in that self-oriented way anyway? Oh, I'm Shiva. This is my world. That's the bhav, right? So how much can you enjoy that? You know what's even better? To be selflessly in love with something other than yourself. And this is not really fair to Shaivism. You see, most of Shaivism is like dualistic devotional Shaivism, actually. Like Shaiva Siddhanta, the tradition that I grew up in, the Tamil Shaivism of the South, it's mostly devotional. But I'm talking about, of course, non-dual Kaula Shaivism. Right? Saying, be Shiva, it's your world. Bhati mama tvadanugraha shaktya. So, but you know what's better? They say, if you become sugar, you can't taste sugar. So, in the higher sense, you go beyond this anubha, this external splendor of Brahman, and you go in, the external splendor of Krishna, which is called Brahman, and you go even deeper. And if you go deeper, you end up in this Vaikuntha Loka, where you experience God's majesty, Vishnu. But even that sucks, actually, because as long as God is great, majestic, God is not sweet. God is awe-inspiring, God is mighty, but not sweet. You have to go beyond that. And if you can go beyond that, you can become like a gopi through their grace. You can become like totally in love with the highest reality. Krishna in the Mathurya aspect, sweet and, your very own. That, the Vaishnava tradition says, Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition says, is the best spirituality you could ever hope for. Yes, you can merge in Brahman. You can do jnana, no problem. In fact, you can even do yoga and merge in the Paramatma. You can merge in Vaikuntha Loka if you want. And, why would you even want to do Vedic rituals? Like, yeah, you can do those and they'll work. But going to a heaven through Vedic ritualism, attaining Brahman through merging, all of these are not as sweet, not as tasty as being with Krishna. So that's the first thing. So we started this discussion with why should we do this? And now we know it's a movement from Maya Shakti towards Swarupa Shakti. Be careful, the Gaudiya Vaishnava says, you can get trapped with these like peripheral things like Raja Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Vedic. But when you say Karma Yoga, usually it means like Vedic ritualism. You get trapped in all these things because they will work, but they suck. Actually, they're okay, but we can do better. Come to the Bhakti camp. Love God. That's better than anything. Okay, now we come to Bhakti. So what is this Bhakti Marga? It has 3 forms. So we'll start with the first. It's called Vaidhi Bhakti. The second form is called Raganuga Bhakti. And the third form is called Ragatmika Bhakti. Or instead of Ragatmika Bhakti, we can call it Prema or Priti. So these are 3 forms. Okay, so this is very substantive material. So here we'll tune in a bit. This is very important. So what is Vaidhi Bhakti? Vidhi means rules, injunctions. Vidhi. Right? So Vaidhi in the Sanskrit form, Vaidhi means bhakti with rules. This is also called sādhanā bhakti. In fact, let me give you 2 more phrases. Sādhanā bhakti means preparatory devotion and sadhya bhakti means true devotion. The confusing thing about the bhakti tradition that you should always keep in mind is that the means and the ends, the same word is used. So bhakti is the means, but it's also the ends. Bhakti is the path, but it's also the destination. That's the beautiful thing about the bhakti tradition. Whereas in jnana, no, the ends and the means are actually different. And so too in yoga, right? In yoga, the means is concentration. The end is not concentration. Oh my God, what do you want to like meditate on one point all your life? No, the end is freedom from the mind. Jnana, what, you want to read books and debate with your teacher and, tell me why you're not God, only for me to like argue with you that you are. Like, you want to do that all your life? No, the goal of bhakti, jnana is to be God, not study whether or not you're God. But in bhakti, the goal and the means are the same. But even then, you should know that preparatory bhakti, sadhana bhakti, versus sadhya bhakti, there's a distinction. So in sadhana bhakti, there are 2 forms. One is called Vaidhi, as I was just saying, and the other is called Raganuga. So let's start with Vaidhi bhakti. Vaidhi bhakti is bhakti with rules. So here, you might not actually have any real devotion yet. And the argument is that who actually starts with real devotion? Very few people. Like, to be a bhakta is no small thing. It's hard to love God. It's easy to love like everything else, but it's very hard to love God, actually. It's very hard to understand that God is the love that we enjoy. It's very hard. So we have to start somewhere. And so the Bhakti tradition gives us 63 or 64 practices. And these are all vidhis. Essentially, by the way, these come from the Bhagavata Purana. They're elaborations on the essential 9 practices of the Bhagavata Purana. Can anybody tell me what they are? Caitanya Deva, the 9 practices, starting with, of course, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Yeah, Archanam is one of them.
Yeah, Archana,
Padasevana, Vandanam. Like stuff like that, right? Like I don't have the list memorized, so I'm not actually testing you guys. I'm like asking for help. Like, what is it? Yeah.
Worshipping like the Archana.
Krishna Sevana or something. Seva Padana, right? Seva Padana.
It's like all like the whole
Atma Nivedana. giving yourself, or sakya, like friendship, intimacy, like that. Like, so like, this is one of the, it's one of the bhavas, the pancha bhavas, but there's a version of it in the Nava, the 9 practices of bhakti. But like, don't quote me on this, but in the Bhagavata Purana, there are 9 practices, starting with chanting and hearing. Hearing, Shravana. It always starts with hearing. Yeah, and then Kirtana, and then Smarana. So like these are the 3 main ones. Yeah, like I'll just focus on these ones for now. There are other ones like doing puja in the sense of Krishna Sevana, or feeding devotees, or like offering your whole self, or having a sense of friendship with the Lord, or like prayer. Like there are other ones, right? But for the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, it's zeroing in on the first 3, which are arguably the most important. Shravana. What does that mean? It doesn't just mean hearing God's name. It also means hearing God's glories. So when right now you're doing Shravana, you're hearing about God. This is a very important practice. You'll recall, if you go to sleep at night, you tend to dream about the events of your day. What you hear it has a huge effect on you. Like listen, to discourses like that. You're making progress in bhakti, arguably, when you're hungry to hear about God. Yesterday Amrita ran back to hear her guru give a lecture on the gospel, like on Wednesday. Sorry, you have a taste for it. You just want to hear the stuff. That's Shravana. So, you might go to the Bhagavata readings. Like you might want to go and listen to Krishna's exploits and stories. You love stories about God. You love lectures about God, all of that. Kate, we miss you very much here. I wish you were here in this space. You live in Berkeley, no? No?
No, I'm in Lagunitas, remember, like towards the Lima.
I forgot, yeah. I don't know why. because you went to Berkeley for the Dharma talk that one day. That's why I made that connection. Yeah. I see. All right, good. Well, we miss you anyway. You're here in spirit, as you all are. Hello, Jess. Wow, Joel, whatever Joel's setup is right now, it's like so beautiful. Like look at this sunlight. Oh my God, it's all like white and radiant. You can't see it, but Joel is looking his best right now. It's like just like, oh, okay, wait, I'll show you. There's Joel. Look at that. Oh, look at him. He's like so beautiful, so radiant. Yeah. So so Vaidhi Bhakti. It's like mainly these 2 things. So you go and listen to the Bhagavata recital. Now, what you're going to hear in just a few moments is the Sankirtana. And now in the Sankirtana, there's going to be chanting of God's names, right? When you listen to this, whether or not you're singing it, and I hope that all of you will sing it with us in just a few moments, you'll sing it loudly in your space if you can. But whether or not you're singing with us, you're still listening. Every time you hear Krishna or Rama, every time you hear Shiva or whatever, when you hear it, that's actually a bhakti practice. So the rule is listen, like try, don't miss a single lecture by anyone. Anyone, really, anyone talking about God, go. Anyone singing about God, listen. That's the first practice, Shravana. The next practice is Kirtana, now you sing. So in the bhakti setting, as you'll see in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, one person leads the kirtan and will chant loudly the names of God, usually to musical accompaniment. At that moment, everyone else in the room is practicing Shravana. Then that person stops and continues maybe playing the instrument, and then all of you chant back, and that's called Kirtana. So now I become, if I'm leading the Kirtan, I become Shravana. I'm practicing Shravana while you practice Kirtana. And then I practice Kirtana while you practice Shravana. Sri Ramakrishna calls this passing the blunt. He makes a reference to hemp smoking, very Shaiva of him, but passing the blunt, So I chant the name of God, I feel happy. Then I give you the blunt and you chant the names of God and you feel happy. And we're both happy with each other. That's wonderful. And all of us are doing smarana. We're remembering God. So look, you're going to be scorched by life. That's the fact. Like we just talked about how absolutely terrible Maya is. You can't get away from the scorching midday sun of Maya. But there's a cooling balm. There's respite. There's rest. You take refuge in the feet of the Lord. It's Good Friday. This is the Christian sentiment. Take refuge. And these things, at the very least, that they distract you. I asked my grandfather once, it's very poignant, I'll share it with you. My grandfather was a very special guru. Never gave big lectures like me. He didn't talk. Very indrawn. You almost never saw him except at night. He never slept, spent all of his time. He slept, he took naps in the day sometimes. But he spent all of his time in his ashram quietly revering God, So it's very hard to get instruction out of him. And, whatever I would say to him, I have this luck with gurus, even my guru, when my grandfather passed, my guru, like they're also indulgent of me. Like I'll say, I told my grandfather, I want to worship fire. Like, fuck all these vain gods, they're not real, I hate this stuff. I'm just gonna worship fire like I didn't say like a Zoroastrian, but I was like, I'm just gonna worship fire. He's like, good, do that. You know, he's always encouraging. He very rarely like gave any of his own thing. But one day we were chanting the Shiva Puranam together. You know, Om Namah Shivaya Valga Tamil text. We're chanting it together. I was like, I'm so sick of it. You know, every day I'm chanting it with him. I'm just like, why do I do this? Like, how on earth can this help with life? I think I might have been a teenager, a young adolescent at that time, going through something. And I couldn't connect what I was doing in my grandfather's ashram with the suffering I was experiencing as a young child or teenager, and how they connect. And my grandfather said, look, at the very least, as long as you're doing this, you're not thinking of that. At the very least, this is a distraction. I was like, this is the most practical explanation of spiritual. And I remember there were times in my life where I was going through it, where I just took refuge in how interesting and exciting spiritual life is. Instead of being upset about what it was that I very validly should have been upset about, I just listened to lectures, read the Gospel of Sri Krishna, got excited about chakras and kundalini. And you see, there's so much to be excited about. And spiritual life is so interesting, you know. I would, sometimes sit up and read the Devi Bhagavatam. And it's like stories within stories within stories within stories. After about 20 minutes of reading, I totally forgotten myself or my problems. And of course, when I put the Devi Bhagavatam down, they all came back. I was like, oh my God, I'm still the same person and I'm still fucked. But for those 20 minutes, when I was reading the Devi Bhagavatam, for those blessed 20 minutes, I was free, you know. I remember once I was particularly heartbroken and I would go to I went to a yoga studio. And for the course of that class, I'd be happy. I'd be engaged, you know. And here's the fact. If I don't lift my arm long enough, my arm will atrophy. Isn't that a fact? So if you don't think the thoughts that cause you suffering, they will atrophy and go away. So if you can just keep your mind on this smarana, keep remembering God, just stay with God's name, keep being absorbed in this stuff, all that stuff that tyrannizes you will go away eventually. So this is the heart of the practice, right? So anyway, these 9 are in the Bhagavata Purana, but now I'm going to give you a longer list, which is expounded upon and developed in the Bhakti traditions of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So I took a picture of it. It's there in the Discord if you want. So the first one is submission to the Guru. Second is receiving initiation and lessons from him or her or them in the devotion to Krishna, serving the teacher, following the conduct of saints, inquiring into what is true religion, abstinence, living in sacred places of the Vaishnavas, earning only for maintenance and not hoarding, observing fast on Ekadashi, respecting the Shalagrama and other emblems of Vishnu, keeping away from atheists, avoiding making too many disciples and getting entangled in their affairs, avoiding too many ambitious projects, avoid writing too many books, practicing too many crafts, delivering too many lectures, and involving yourself in too many disputations. You guys. I'm a Lassi Vaishnava. Not being overwhelmed. I like this one. Not being overwhelmed by adverse fortune, giving up faulty behavior, avoiding disrespect to the deity as worshipped by others. It's really important. It's right there. Don't diss other people's bhakti. Not harassing others. I'm going to stop reading this because obviously this is too self-incriminating. But wait, what are these actually? These are practices. There are about 63 disciplines and they're rules. So going back to what I was saying, Vaidhi Bhakti means bhakti with rules. So look, you guys, it's really simple. Just follow these rules. And most of them are really nice. I like number 25, dancing before the deity. I like this one. Accepting with devotion flowers, tulasi, etc. offered to the Lord. So today we're going to offer the sweets in a few moments. Accept the sweets that were offered to the Lord and eat it with relish. Whatever you get from the puja, flowers, food, you accept it with relish. The next one is dance before the deity. You guys, you're not doing enough of this. I'm going to be frank with you. Your bhakti practices are suffering because you're all way too prideful to dance before the image. I'm just going to be so frank with you guys. Be a fool, dance before the image. This is bhakti. You put your hands above your head. You shake that booty. Wait, no, that sounded so bad. You dance before the Lord. And it doesn't have to be this agitated, drunken monkey thing. Dancing before the Lord is soothing. It's a very soothing dance. It's for no one but the Lord. It's best done in private, I'm going to admit. The best time to sing and dance to God is when you're alone with God. Otherwise, it becomes this showy spectacle and you become self-conscious and you think more about how well you're singing or how beautifully you're dancing when it's not really bhakti anymore. and it's bhakti to the ego. But when you're alone with God, why not dance with God? How much Sri Ramakrishna used to do this. Imagine this, the scene. Ramakrishna alone in the Kali temple, just dancing. He's dancing to entertain mother. He's dancing with mother. Let bhaktas teach us something of bhakti. Dance before the Lord, like that, with both arms raised. They say, like, otherwise you're holding back. So don't hold back. Just dance. Make a fool of yourself before the Lord. And Sri Ramakrishna would say that. He'd say to M, you see this guy M? Yeah, by the way, a kirtan would go on. Everyone would dance. Like Vivekananda would be dancing. Yes, Vivekananda danced. And Ramakrishna would be dancing. Everyone would be dancing. Usually Vivekananda is singing. And everyone's dancing. And then M would sit. He's a Gyani type. But you know what Gyanis do? Their thumbs. You see a Gyani, you know how Gyani enjoys a kirtan?
Yeah.
Which is fine, yeah. So Ramakrishna saw M sitting there like, doing the Gyani thing. And he said, this man he's a headmaster. Okay, he's a headmaster at a school. This man has no problem showing his teeth to his students. No, in other words, he makes showing your teeth, by the way, it's like kind of disrespectful, right? It's like, it's in polite society, Indian society, it's a weird thing. It's kind of rude, actually. So he shows his teeth to the kids at school. He has no problem with making a fool of himself in other places. You're happy to be a fool, but not for God. Weird, huh? Is that interesting? So anyway, he said, see, he shows his teeth to the school boys, but he won't dance here. What kind of an attitude is that? They're showing me his teeth. So like I love this thing, dance before the deity. It's a rule, you guys. Suck it up. Vaidhi Bhakti, it's a rule. You gotta do it. Not because you want to or because you're possessed by no, it's a rule number 25. And I'm one to talk. I'm giving too many lectures. And anyway, so I like that rule. Prostrating before the deity and the guru, which everyone who walked into the room observed that rule. They prostrated before the altar. When you see your guru, when you see the altar, you prostrate. That's a rule. Okay, and then I like this one, circumambulating the deity in temples, going to the temple regularly, worshipping the deity regularly, like doing puja, serving the deity in all possible ways, singing the praise of Krishna, and very soon, I'm trying to rush it, performing Sankirtana. We're going to sing together soon. That's a rule. You guys, you don't perform it because you want to. I mean, I hope you want to. You have to. Like, you know what the alternative is? Maya. The alternative to doing these things is suffering. So you better suffer this bhakti as opposed to suffering in the scorching heat of Maya. You dance whether you like it or not. You sing whether you like it or not. You prostrate before the altar whether you like it or not. You accept my fucking flowers whether you like it or not. Some of you look at it, you're like, oh. This is bhakti, you guys. Like they're rules, Okay, I love this one. Look at this. Okay, silently repeating the divine name. Obviously, that's many of us, that's our main practice, japa. Right? This is, but look at this one. Revealing one's innermost feelings to the deity. Wow, just talking to God and telling God how you feel. It's a rule. But the rule is you have to go and like talk to your girlfriend, like go to God and be like, girl, it's really hard right now. Revealing your innermost feelings to God. That's beautiful. What about this? Repeating devotional verses. Look, eating with relish what is offered to the deity. Much of Vaishnavism and Christianity is about food, feasting. We all like to eat. But eat the prasad. Drinking water, the charanamrita, with which the deity is washed. Yesterday we offered the charana. Drinking that water as a rule. Smelling the fragrance of flowers and incense, etc., offered to the deity. Enjoy that. Touch the deity. Gaze at the deity. Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, right? Like verse 80. Right? This is verse 80 here. Gaze at the deity. Look at that. Look at God. Go and see Krishna and Radha at the ISKCON temple. That's it. Just look at them. And then smell the sandalwood paste. Here, can you smell? This is a Vaishnava's home. Can you smell the beauty of the sandalwood paste? Like that. Okay. And then witnessing the evening service at the temple. Arati. Go to Arati. This is a rule. Don't miss Arati. If you have a chance, go to Arati. It's a rule. Listening to the recitation of the names of the Lord. Anyway, Sahasranam, etc. These go on and on and on. But I hope you can see that this is just what we insist upon. As part of spiritual practice, you follow these rules. Okay. These are called Vaidhi Bhakti. Okay. And we'll just leave that there for a moment. Now we come to, oh my God, I've left two people waiting in the room. Okay. Vaidhi Bhakti. Done. So Vaidhi Bhakti means you just do these things, rules. But it's not assumed that you have any real Bhakti yet. Don't worry about it, you guys. Spiritual practice is just practice. You know, Richard is a master at guitar, but that might not have always been true. Right? At some point, you've had to have practiced. And when you were practicing, you weren't maybe making music. You know, you were making noise, but not yet music. Now you make music. Similarly, when you're practicing, don't think you're a devotee yet. You're practicing it. So just obey the rules. And you know what? This is the guarantee. If you can do these 63 practices, at least as many of them as possible, it will work. And you know what will happen? Now, something internally will occur. This is the next stage. So the next stage is called Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti means an inner psychological shift whereby you start to have Shraddha, faith. Now, this whole process can be sped along with one miracle cure. There's one key to all of this that will supercharge all of these practices. If you don't have it, it's very hard to make progress. If you do have it, progress is guaranteed and immediate. What is it? What is the super fuel in the Bhakti world? Ramakrishna is obsessed with it. It's one of his most frequent instructions, especially to householders. What is the one rocket fuel of spiritual life? Do you know? You must know. The most important element. If you have it, it will, huh? Yeah, mantras, I would say so. It's very good. The powerful mantra. But there are a lot of people with mantras that don't make any progress. Even something more practical than that. Mantra is esoteric. Surrender is too much of an ideal. Something you can do. Ramakrishna always tells people to do this. Sincerity is also really important, but again, it's hard to have that, right? It's a practice. You can't be sincere. You can't surrender. And many of us don't even really know what a mantra, how to work with the mantra, But there is something we can do. Yeah, see, you're all describing things that are very love, faith, God. The answer is holy company. Sri Ramakrishna, it's everything. He'll just tell holy company. It's simpler than you think. Holy company is the key to bhakti because you don't know what it is to love God until you see someone who does. In other words, bhakti only becomes real when you meet a bhakta, a real bhakta. And then you realize, you look into that person's eyes and you're like, fuck, God must be real. Because this is real. What I see in their eyes, the joy that I see in their life is proof of God's existence. You know what I mean? Someone asked me once in an atheist, Hindu atheist panel, what if all of this was fake? And I'm like, I don't care a heartbeat if it was, because I'm happy. I'm happy. And that's what I wanted. I started this whole thing because I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be fulfilled. And I am. So I don't care whether it's real or not. It fucking worked. I said, I'll regard all of this performance art if one day I realize, but your atheism, look at the consequence of your atheism. Here you are angrily typing comments in the YouTube chat window about how, like bordering racism comments, you're on the internet all day. That's the outcome of your atheism. So that's the idea, It's like, if you want to be happy, you have to see a happy person. And you haven't seen happiness until you've seen a bhakta. That's the argument, at least. So holy company is very important. And usually holy company makes you want to practice the disciplines that the holy person suggests that you do, like these ones that we talked about now. Then holy company is what causes you to switch from Vaidhi Bhakti to Raganuga Bhakti. So Raganuga Bhakti is when you internally know that God exists, or at least have a hunch that God exists. Right? How many of you here how many of you can say that God exists here in this room? Now raise your hands if you can say that God exists. I'm a bit tentative actually about that because that's quite a state, but I want to claim it. I know that God exists, but that's quite a thing. And you know what it means to say that? You never will complain ever again. Because God exists, you guys. Wait, the implication of that, God exists. If you worry at all, if you have any anxieties, you don't know that God exists. I think that's just a fact. Or you say God exists, but you don't actually believe it. If you really believed God existed, just think about the implication in your life of that. And many Christian communities act as if that's a given. No, it's not. It's a state. You have to attain faith. First intellectual assent, then faith. Belief and faith have to be one. And they're won through rigorous, uncompromising adherence to the rules of bhakti. So when you come and learn Hinduism, you're essentially just learning these rules. Bow, dance, sing, celebrate, eat prasad, revere holy men, women, and people, revere your guru. You're learning how to behave. You see? It's random. Why should I bow here? Why should I eat that? Why should I drink this water? No, no, no. You have to. You have to do these rules because they will help you develop this bhakti. Then when this bhakti comes, now you're interested in establishing a personal relationship to God. So Raganuga Bhakti is when you imitate one of the various attitudes that the people in Vraja and Vrindavan had for Krishna. Now, there are 5 of these attitudes. The first is called Shanta, which is the attitude of the rishis towards Rama, which is the attitude of impersonality and awe. So it's not a personal relationship with God. It's just an understanding of God's brilliance and magnificence and awe-inspiring impersonality. This is usually discarded for reasons aforementioned. Where we're not too interested in this because after all, what? How is that enjoyable? No, forget this, Shanta. So usually we reject this. The other moods are more important. Dasya means Hanuman's love for Rama. God exists and I am God's servant. That's Dasya Bhav. But even this is kind of not that preferred in this tradition. What we like more is Sakya Bhav. Sakya is like Sudama, for instance, Krishna's friend, or Balarama. Their relationship to Krishna might be something like Sakya, friendship, a loving equality relationship. Better than Sakya is Vatshalya, which is the attitude of Yashoda and Nanda towards Krishna. So like Krishna is my Suta, my son. And as my son, I love him unconditionally. So you can mimic that, or higher than Vatshalya is Madhurya. Nothing is better than Madhurya because Madhurya includes Vatshalya and Vatshalya includes Sakya and Sakya includes Dashya. So the thing about these bhavas is that they are a hierarchy, but any one of them is sufficient. So Raganuga Bhakti is when through your vidhi, through your adherence to rules, you start to actually, through those rules, start to have faith and you start to have this feeling that God is real, and therefore you start to inwardly pursue a relationship with God. So Vaidhi Bhakti is external Bhakti, whereas Raganuga Bhakti is internal Bhakti. And this is important, they are not mutually exclusive. You can practice the external forms while cultivating this inner psychological predisposition. But sometimes, because Raganuga Bhakti becomes so intense, you can drop the rules. You can forget about the external supports because now you have an actual working relationship with God. So what does Raganuga mean, by the way? It means imitations. Right? And yeah, Jess is right. These rules are not really rules, they are practices. Right? And vidhi, it means injunction, it means rule, but I think it's best translated as practices. Best practices. I don't know, I've heard that somewhere. Okay, so Raganuga, by the way, the word literally means imitation bhakti. So no bhakta is, by the way, you guys, you know, people are so scared to say I'm Brahman because they don't want to be imitation jnanis. Nobody made it without faking it. You know, like I heard an interview, one of my favorite artists of all time, the great saint, Avril Lavigne, in one interview said, when she was a child in Canada, yes, Lala, there's hope. When she was a child in Canada, she used to stand in front of her mirror and sing into her hairbrush. And so today in the new age, we'd say she manifested, right? But she faked it. She was there singing into her hairbrush, and now look at her. You know, she faked it until she made it. Everyone who ever made it, take this very seriously. Everyone who ever made it faked it first. They acted like they were it before they were it. Never forget this point, please, because you can never be a jnani until you understand this. You won't even dare practice jnana if you're not willing to fake it. You know what faking it looks like? Claim that you're Brahman and do your best to abide by it. When you're cold, smile. When you're hungry, laugh. When you're sad, scowl. Huh, I should be sad? I'm Brahman. It won't feel real at first, but what does? You know? Fake it till you make it. You are Brahman. Act like it. That's called faking it till you make it jnana. But in bhakti, the same people who say you shouldn't say you're Brahman because that doesn't feel authentic, say you should love God. My ass, bro. That's just as faking it as saying I'm Brahman. If I say I'm Brahman and don't mean it, that's not that different from saying I think God exists and I love God. My ass, you love God. If you do, why do you spend your time doing all this other nonsense? Right? Like, you know, if you love God, your whole life will be God. But we have to start somewhere. So I say, fake it. The Vaidhi Bhakti leads you to Raganuga Bhakti, and Raganuga Bhakti is where you fake it. You pretend to be Krishna's friend, and you pretend to be Krishna's mother, and you pretend to be Krishna's lover, and you do your best to live that out. And now here, what I love about the tradition is it says, make your imitation really as genuine as possible. So if you are a man imitating Madhurya Bhakti, better wear a sari, bro. What's your problem? Are you too proud to wear a sari? Didn't you say you're Radha? You're Radha, huh? Really? Then why? Where's your nose ring? Where's your sari? Why aren't you affecting the mannerisms of Radha? Why aren't you going into a swoon, a fainting spell? You know, people are disgusted with bhakti sometimes because they think it's all pretense. You guys, that's literally the practice. You're asking too much of people. You're asking them to be authentic from the get-go. who in this world can be authentic from the start? Everyone has to start somewhere. Avril Lavigne had to start in front of a mirror with her hairbrush. Similarly, you two have to start now by wearing saris and pretending to be Radharani. You must pretend to be Kali's handmaiden. What would Kali's handmaiden do? WWJD. Do that. How would she respond to the various circumstances in her life? What would Kali's mother do? What would Kali's child do? Whatever you think that image looks like, that archetype looks like, you try your best to fit that mold. So Ramakrishna would take off all his clothes and sit and meditate naked in the forest. You know, like he's really, and he would wear the sari. And this is why I think the menstruation thing, Vijay is always like, you guys, he keeps bringing this up all the time. But Ramakrishna, like, you know, when he menstruated, it was because he was practicing Radha Rani Bhav so intensely. He was so identified with being Radha that he straight up menstruated, like an actually documented phenomenon in history. So St. Francis had stigmata, right? Why? It's a deep mystical fact. When I was a kid, I couldn't understand. I was like, I was so interested in stigmata because it's like, why should these lovers of Christ be crucified? You know, they love Christ, and so they have wounds? I don't get it. I know love hurts, love bleeds. I know that. But like, are they being punished? They love Christ and they wake up one day and they're also suffering like the Christ. It really bothered me as a kid. And now I finally understand because of Ramakrishna's menstruation thing. You don't understand, you guys. This menstruation thing has solved the puzzle for me. I now get the relationship between the mind and body. Gender is totally a construct, and you could, with your mind, project any kind of body you want. Sickness is totally an illusion, but please take your medicines. It's true, sickness is an illusion, but many of us are still very mired in that illusion. We better take our medicine. But no, it is an illusion. You can think yourself Joe Dispenza, etc. Right? But like it's suddenly I realized everything. My mind is so powerful. And all of this, all the nonsense in my life I created, this body I created, this world I created, and if I change my mind, I can change it all. And Ramakrishna did. And the St. Francis story, he did. He thought about Christ so passionately that he became he had stigmata. Similarly, Ramakrishna identified so much with Hanuman that he actually grew a tail. He identified so much with Radha that he actually menstruated. And yeah, Danny, you can call it what you want. Danny's like, can't we say trying to actualize it rather than faking it? Yeah, that's good. Let's use that word, actualizing or manifesting. Okay, so you guys, I think that's enough that we'll say about Raganuga Bhakti. If you're going to fake it, really fake it, though, wear the clothes, use the language. Stigmata is like the wounds that some Christian mystics have on their hands and on their feet and sometimes on their head. And it resembles the Christ's nail wounds when he was nailed to the cross. Why? Because they're meditating on that. They meditate on the Christ's self-sacrifice in the central myth of Christianity, the atonement myth. Christ dies for our sins. And that's so moving. Can you imagine? Whoever the Christ might have been, there was a man somewhere who at least believed by his sacrifice, the world would be saved. Maybe he was wrong, but whoa, can you imagine what kind of guy that was? He believed that if he were to be crucified, he would help everyone in the world. And to help everyone in the world, he didn't mind being crucified. What is that? Or Ramanuja, he was told by his guru that if he told people this mantra, he would go to hell. He was happy to do it if it meant that people who heard the mantra would be liberated. That's religion, you guys. Anyway, so these people, they meditate on Christ in that bhav. And in meditating on Christ, they get stigmata. Similarly, Ramakrishna, he meditated on Radha so intensely that he menstruated. Wow. Anyway, so that's what I call Raganuga Bhakti. You have to go so deep into, basically you pick a character like a role-playing game. I'm Sudama, Krishna's friend, or I'm Balarama, Krishna's brother, or I am Vatshalya, Krishna's mother, or I am Radharani, Krishna's lover, Radhe Radhe. And now my whole life, I'm just gonna actualize or manifest or whatever you want to call it. I like faking it because it's just kind of like, I like the side. Like, it does feel that. It doesn't feel real actually. We're like, I'm Krishna's lover, but really though, I mean, look at Radha, look at me. So it's okay. It's okay to start somewhere. That's, I think, what I'm trying to say. So okay, that's Raganuga Bhakti, done. Now, the last thing we'll talk about now is called Ragatmika Bhakti. So if Raganuga Bhakti is imitation Bhakti, remember, Raganuga Bhakti is internal. So maybe you don't actually wear a sari or a nose ring. Maybe you don't actually outwardly express it. And maybe because you don't need to. It helps. Vaidhi Bhakti is all about external rules, right? Like, I still need a lot of, like, I mean, like, if you come to my house, the whole house is covered with holy symbols, right? Why? Because they're external helps. They're external helps to cultivate an internal psychological state. But some of us can do without it. I don't know how many. Brahmananda couldn't. Brahmananda needed a band of singers around him always to keep his mind in a high state. And don't be afraid to use external help. So if you want to wear a sari, it's good. And you know what? Many Vaishnavas move to Vrindavan. It's better actually. If you move to Vrindavan, you're more likely to associate with Sudama and Radharani and Vatshalya and all that. If you move to Mathura, like that, because these places are where those people lived. And if you go live where they live, one of the rules is going and living in Vrindavan. It's good because then you can more identify. I go to the cremation ground. I like it. Why? Because there, and here in America, there are no cremation grounds, really. It's very sad. But cemetery, Lala and I have to settle for some cemeteries. But why do we go there? Because we're practicing Raganuga Bhakti, you guys. Except for us, it's different. I am Shiva. And where does Shiva live? He lives in the smashan. So I go to the smashan. What does Shiva do? He loves ghosts. So I feed the ghosts. You know, like this is my religion. I'm literally practicing my religion when I go to the cremation ground and sit in meditation all day with the bowl of food out for ghosts. I'm practicing Raganuga Bhakti. I want to love Shiva, so I'm imitating Shiva. And I have no problem with that. You know, sadhus, they have jata. By the way, some sadhus only have one earring. Do you know why? A bit of sadhu fun fact. If you see a sadhu with 2 earrings, that's obvious. He's Shiva. Shiva has 2 earrings. Sadhus are supposed to have 2 earrings. Sadhus are supposed to have long matted locks because they're resembling Shiva. They should be ash besmeared. They should be naked. Shiva, right? They should be, you know, wandering about the world like an avadut. So that's what you expect of a Shaiva sadhu. But sometimes you see with 1 earring. Do you know why? It's kind of cute. If you ever see a sadhu like that, they probably belong to the Udasina clan. Guru Nanak's son started it. And it's because, you know, they identify with Ardha Nareshwara. So they're half Shiva, half Parvati. So their Shiva side, they wear 1 earring. It's so cool, right? But they go to extreme lengths. They wear that. And by the way, Shiva's semen is what? Pop quiz. Shiva's semen is made of what? You call yourself Shaivas, you don't even know what your Lord's semen is like. What kind of Shakti? Yeah, Laleshwari. Good, very good. Thank you. Mercury, you guys. Oh, you got it. Good. Lord Shiva's semen is Mercury. So if I'm a Shaiva, what should I do? I should practice Vajroli Mudra, shouldn't I? I don't actually. My guru did not. Our lineage, our Radhakrshna lineage, doesn't really like take too many hatha yoga things serious. But you know, if I was a real Shaiva, I'm gonna admit there's something I should do that I don't do. I should perfect my hatha yoga, shouldn't I? That's what Shiva taught us, hatha yoga. So I should learn to take up first water, then milk, then ghee, then honey, and finally mercury up through the penis. Why not? That's what Shiva's. And I should be able to hold that mercury. And by the way, it's not like straight mercury. It's mercury specially prepared through tantric means. But I should be Shiva, so I should have mercury. You know, like that's the extent to which you can go. And look, like I said earlier, Indians overdo everything. In the realm of religion, we go very far with everything. But the good thing is we are maybe for the most part quite hopeless at material, practical stuff, but we're experts at the idealistic world of spirituality and religion. So if you want to learn religion, come to Indians. But Indians need to come to you guys to learn plumbing and sewage. Some people will be upset when I say that because actually Modi is very like interested in like that kind of stuff, like hygiene and all that. But Vivekananda, at least, his idea was that Americans, especially Americans, might of the Western world, would teach science and technology and women's rights and education, all of that. Like America would globalize India, giving people like you Americans are like Ranis and Rajas, so rich. Indians don't even have running water, you know, like bring that to them. If you really love this tradition, go to India and help them, give them bread. Don't give them religion. They have it. They're rich in that. But they must come here and give you this stuff because you are all crucified in your mansions on the cross of materialism. You know, you're dying of atheism here. And you don't even know what real religion is like. You have weird cults that drink Kool-Aid in the outskirts somewhere. And like, it's like religion is really weird in America. There's all sorts of weird movements and like, oh my God, like I have to exercise you, read the Bible. Oh my God, I'm witnessing Jehovah. I have to punish you. Like what? I don't even know what religion is out here, but it's whack ass doodle. You know, it's wackadoodle, batshit crazy. That's what religion has been like for me in America. I'm like, what on earth is this? And when you come to India, you will think the same thing about our plumbing and our, you know, you'll think, what is the train system? In my country, the train arrives when it says it arrives. In my country, my friend comes when she texted me, she'll come. But in my country, my friend comes 3 hours to text me. So I'll be there. On my way, Baba, on my way. Hare, you're still in bed. You're saying, I'm on my way. So anyway, when you come to our country, you will say, what? This is whack. The trains don't run, the water doesn't run, everything makes me sick. Like everyone here is everything is so crowded and dirty. And yeah, it's true. It's true. Help us. And when I come to your country, I say everyone is depressed and oh my God, you people are fucked in the head. What is wrong with you? You have everything in life and you're so fucking sad. And the best thing is you create all sorts of situations for yourself to be sad. You get all sorts of weird like pharmaceuticals and opioids and all sorts of things. You come home from work, you can't help but take cocktail and drinking. You know, like what on earth? Gambling, drinking, like crazy about sex, like this really uncontrolled society. No wonder everyone's depressed. In India, people have a general like well-being, but it doesn't change that they're hungry. They're hungry. So there are different kinds of hungers, and now we have to all come together as a global community to feed each other, each what we have, you know. So take it from us, this Bhakti tradition we have perfected. I can say that without a doubt. India has perfected spirituality. Bhakti, because it's really 5,000 years of an extant tradition working hard to uncover the secrets of this tradition. So we're saying now, this is how Bhakti works. You start with rules, and these are the rules, obey them, and then you get this internal disposition, Raganuga Bhakti, fake it till you make it, and then through that you get the real thing. Ragatmika. Ragatmika means real Bhakti. This is where you actually identify with that person that you were imitating a moment before. Now you actually become Shiva, you actually become a handmaiden of Kali, or you actually become Radha. And that arguably is what Chaitanya had. He had this Ragatmika or Mahabhava or Prema or Preeti, it's called. And you know, I want to do some kirtan, so I'm going to end now, but there's a little more about like Sneha and Mana and like how this Mahabhava develops from Bhava, how you go from Bhava to Mahabhava / Prema, Preeti. There's a bit of some technique, but it's not going to be important to us, I think, because I want this lecture to be practical and not idealistic. So why should I talk now about Ragatmika Bhakti or Mahabhava when that's not the reality that many of us are experiencing? Let's just talk about vidhis, rules. And if we can just do that, that would be practical and helpful. And then let's talk about Ragatmika. You say you're Shiva, right? Prove it. Show me your renunciation. Show me how you handle cold, how you handle hunger, how you handle sleepless. All very weird cult-like statements I'm making now. Don't take these things too seriously. Don't show me. I'm saying show Shiva. Show yourself. That's what I mean to say. Show yourself who you really are. Are you Shiva? Okay, be Shiva. You say you're Brahman? Be Brahman. That's the idea. And fake it till you make it, right? And if you're Shiva, you know what that looks like? Indifference. Not scorn, not condescension, indifference. Like I said, today I saw a drop of water fall into a puddle, and there were some ripples. That's all my life is. A drop of water in a puddle and a few ripples. Never forget this world is a dream. Okay, I'm sorry, I spoke Bhakti so much now. I'm coming into this like, closing Vedantic sentiment. But this world is nothing but a dream. It comes, just goes like that. How old are you now? How quickly? Just think of how fast your life is gone. You'll be dead tomorrow. Blink your eyes, open them, you're gone. Life is so transient, so ephemeral. And you want to worry about these things that you're worried about? No. Tragedy. So if you're going to be Shiva, you look at this world and you smile. Nothing can touch you. You don't belong here. You're just wandering. You're coming from somewhere you came and you'll soon leave. And all of this, it's like writing in water. Comes and it goes. And then you establish in that peace. And when that peace is perfected, it expresses itself as ecstasy. Then you say, because I want nothing, because I have nothing to lose, I can now finally enjoy my life. Tena tyaktena bunjita, it says in the Isha Upanishad. By renouncing everything, enjoy everything. So in the closing sentiment, we'll say in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, we say the best way to enjoy yourself is to be Radha, to experience prema, Mahabhava. You become a parikara, you become an attendant of Krishna, so you don't lose yourself in Krishna. This is what Ramakrishna called the Nitya Leela. There's a Nitya Krishna and a Nitya Bhakta, a Nitya and a Leela, and these exist. And you can forevermore in either like Vrindavan, literally in the physical Vrindavan, or in better yet in Goloka, in the real Vrindavan, arguably, forevermore you can enjoy this ever new bliss of loving on Krishna. You know, and so Vaidhi Bhakti matures into Raganuga, Raganuga matures into Ragatmika, and all of it is so that you can find fulfillment in life. Never forget that all of this is so you can be happy. And Gaudiya Vaishnava says, the Gaudiyas say, the way to be happy is to lose yourself in selfless love. It beats everything. And it seems like Ramakrishna might be saying in many ways the same thing. What is Vijnana if not super bhakti? And it seems like Shaivas have the same experience. If you look at Utpala Deva, you know, he says at the end of his Shiva Sutravali, "Oh Lord, I have only one prayer. I just want to drink freely the liquor of thy devotion and dance mad with joy in the cremation ground with your 9 ghosts. Look at Abhinava Gupta's poems. Tava chaka chanana sutirambike sakala shabadamayi kilate nikila murti shme bhavadanna. On Bhairavastava, how he sings, Tvamcha Mahesha Sadaiva Mahatma. He said, you and I are one. And yet, I love you, I love you, I love you. So when you really look at a Shaiva, he knows his Shiva. And yet he spends his whole life in this ecstatic, selfless love of Ma, knowing fully well that it's its own Shakti that's manifest as all of this. And yet he presents himself and lives his life as a super bhakta, it seems like, at least. So we get from all of this the conclusion that Ramakrishna, Christianity, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, even the most radically non-dual Shaiva traditions, what happens in Buddhism? You fall in love with all beings and you live your life of karuna. Yeah, karuna is here. You live a life of compassion. You just want to serve everyone and everything because you fall in love. You see, you fall in love with, because you're no longer self-obsessed. If you can forget yourself, you'll know what love is. And that's what happened to the Buddha. He sat under a tree. He realized, oh wait, I don't exist. By the way, validation is for parking. You're not valid. That's what the Buddha would say. Your personality, your emotions, your ideas are not valid because it's a fiction. And you're clinging on to this fiction so tightly, you can't love anyone at all because you only ever think about yourself and your own problems. But if you forget yourself totally, then all that energy is freed up and is poured into the world as compassion to others. That was the Buddha. So you see, you can't get any religion without bhakti. Bhakti is the ultimate goal of all religions, Buddhism even. The love of all beings is the goal, karuna, arguably. So we'll close with this final note to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to whom these 3 lectures are devoted, this great ecstatic lover of God who showed us the true meaning of what it is to live a fulfilled life. We'll say that the purpose of life is to find joy, but the only way to find joy is to love, and the only way to love is to love selflessly. Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishna te namaha. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.